Obviously, you guys are based in Houston, but then expanded out to Chicago with Do or Die and working with legendary Traxter doing the beats, Do or Die being hugely successful. So, and then obviously with Resurrection, having Larry Hoover on there. So what did you realize and you talk about going to visit him and having him on the album and different things and his importance in Chicago and around the country. So for you, how did you go from not knowing much about him to learning about him to then understanding why he was so important to want to put him on a Ghetto Boys album?
Yeah, well, Chicago was one of the first cities to embrace rap a lot. And, Larry Hoover knew me and knew of my movement before I really knew of him and his movement.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he extended an invitation, for me to come in and visit him. And, I did. I went in and had opportunity, to chop it up with him for a few hours, not knowing that, they was putting this wristband around me with this tool in it that would, recording. Not knowing I was under surveillance and being wiretapped. I wasn't in agreement with all of that. But, it's a good thing he and I was talking about legal things and legal movements, because if not, then, they probably would have handcuffed me before I left out of the jail, because they've been looking for that kind of opportunity as long as I can remember. But, that movement, that whole Midwest movement was a powerful movement for rap a lot. It really was the foundation of us, building our empire on, and I will forever, feel a special way about the Midwest, because it was Chicago, Detroit, Cleveland, all of those areas that was riding with us real tough, even before Houston and a lot of the places down south. And, that led to me like connecting with a lot of things in the Midwest.
So why do you think, having been there and spent a lot of time there over the years, what was it about going to George's Music Room? What was it about all those situations that made Chicago, so much a part of what Rap-A-Lot did?
Yeah, they could relate to our movement unlike no other. You know what I mean? Even though they're in the Midwest, it's a connection that's really unexplainable. And I think if I had to explain it, I think a lot of them are from the South.
A lot of Mississippi.
Yeah.
A lot of people from Mississippi moved up, especially.
Yeah. So that has to be the connection, because it's a strong connection, the whole Midwest and down south. And, I've connected with a lot of those individuals. Definitely my man, Hoover, who I've been speaking of in the last few days, that's a situation where they're trying to bury him, Jeff Ford, a lot of those guys alive. Those brothers are alive, and they're trying to be buried alive, have them next to, the Unabomber and this Nicholas, the Oklahoma bomber. These guys have 1 life sentence. They gave Larry Hoover 6 life sentences for conspiracy.
Right.
So, you have to put that on the scale. Don't take a rocket scientist to understand that punishment that they giving him is above and beyond the call of duty. But racism is behind it, you know. Yeah.
And I think that clearly ties into a lot of what the Ghetto Boys were talking about, starting with the Grip It On That Other Level album, because I always will tell people that it was amazing to hear in 1989, you guys talking about how you couldn't get your songs played in New York on the radio.
Yeah.
But then you were talking about being black owned and won't sell out and all that. And that, as you mentioned earlier, inspired the Tony Drapers of the world and the Master P's and the Babies and, everybody else, I'm sure 3-6 Mafia, et cetera. So what was it that you noticed being a black man, owning your own record label and putting out, street reporting, gangster rap, people call it different things, but telling those stories, what made it so important that you were doing it?
you know, it was important to me because I understood the power behind it. You know what I mean? It was something in me that was bigger than myself. You know what I mean? Even when the invitation was extended to me and the word was, you know, from all of these alphabet boys, you know, they send messages
Right.
to try to get me to disown where I was from and my people. And, you know, I told them I'd rather be dead than to disown where I'm from or my people. So it was in me to that extent where I was willing to die to stay connected. And, you know, with that being said, you know, all of my moves have been fearless where they're concerned, you know, because, you know, as a lot of people know, they tried to put a hit on me. You know, they threatened my life. They put a guy on me that killed, you know, 8 people, Schumacher. You know what I mean? His sidekick, Chad Scott, you know, just recently got indicted. 10 indictments for the very thing that I shined a light on him over a decade ago. So, you know, this is like real life situations that's still going on in 2018.
And that's what I think is one of the great things about the book Respect is that when you're in the book and you're showing these letters from Maxine Waters and you're showing the different things of the indictments and everything, it goes from you telling a story to you documenting facts and things that really happened. So what gave you the idea to want to actually put those documents in the book as part of the text?
Because I believe more is caught than taught. You know what I mean? A person will believe and go by what they see more so than what they hear. And, you know, I had it, you know, so why not show it to them?
Right. Okay. And then throughout the book also you talk about your different interactions with a lot of the biggest executives in particular. And, you know, obviously the thing that you were going to be doing with Suge and the Murder Inc. guys didn't work out. But throughout the years you had talked about your different interactions with Suge and some of your impressions about him and what happened to him and different types of things. So when you were first meeting Suge, interacting with him, like what did you notice about him that maybe he's playing a part to what's happening to him now?
Well, you know, he was campaigning. You know what I mean? He was campaigning with foolishness back then. And ultimately, you know what I mean, he got elected with foolishness. And, you know, my heart go out to the brother right now. You know what I mean? Because I wouldn't wish that on you know, my worst enemy. You know, basically he just about got a life sentence. You know, whether he accepted, you know, voluntarily or not, you know, that's what's before him right now. But that's the reality of campaigning with foolishness. You know what I mean? That's the end results of those kind of situations. So it's important for the future, the present. You know, it's hard to talk to the past, but to understand that and learn from the mistakes of, you know, campaigning with the wrong purpose, you know. At least know the reward that go along with those campaigns.
And something you also do throughout the book is talk a lot about like the street codes and how the streets work. And you talk about in the book how, you know, you went to the Hypnotized video shoot with Biggie and Puffy. And I thought that was very powerful because your sense of what was going on did not match what Biggie was feeling. And he was looking at it as strictly business and not paying attention to what was going on in LA. So what do you think was the difference of why you were able to pick up on things? And then obviously he was killed in Los Angeles later, but what made your perception of things different from what you noticed his perception was?
Well, you know, there's a thing that my street depth, you know, meaning that I'm a little more seasoned where the streets are concerned. And, you know, Puff Biggie is somewhat surface deep to a certain extent. You know what I mean? You got to call it like it is, you know, because I saw that a mile away. You know what I mean? It was important for me to explain to them the possibilities and the things that I was hearing, you know, but just automatically, you know, it would register to me, you know, after what had happened with Pac and assumptions of them having something to do with it, or the hate that was in the air for them, period. Even before that took place, this wasn't a place to be. You know what I mean? And you have to really have experience where the streets are concerned to even begin to understand, you know, what can happen in them. And I think if they would have really been a little more depth where the streets were concerned, they wouldn't have been here like that.
Right.
Yeah. So it was the naiveness, you know, where streets are concerned. It can cost you your very life.
In the beginning, hip-hop was ruled by the East Coast. Then the West Coast rose to prominence, thanks to gangster rap. Hip-hop changed the world. Gangster rap changed the narrative.
I'm representing for the gangsters all across the world.
And then changed the world again.
'Cause I'll come and take your life away.
The history of gangster rap features unheard stories, unseen photos and documents, all with exclusive interviews from the founders and players who shaped gangster rap.
I think a real gangster rapper has to scare you a little bit.
The history of gangster rap, written by veteran rap journalist Soren Baker. In stores now.
Yo, what up? This is DJ Quick. Be sure to pick up my homeboy Soren Baker's book, The History of Gangster Rap, if you really want to know what we do.